You know, in the pursuit of our educational, professional, and personal success, the path may sometimes appear daunting and a lot of times overwhelming. Our journey can be filled with twists, turns, and plenty of pivots. I know that firsthand. However, it is crucial to remember that progress is made by taking one step at a time. The mantra, one step at a time, you'll get there, serves as a reminder that success is achieved through consistent effort, perseverance, and patience. This is really the essence of the growth mindset. Today's speaker, Nancy Ervin, is the essence of someone that embraces such a mindset. She does everything through the lens of growing. Her journey has not been a straight path, but has had twists and turns and several crossroads. She has embraced the unexpected, and she has developed skills that she never thought were possible. She also discovered the importance of listening with her heart when she came across newfound passions. She has discovered her resilience and ability to bounce back when faced with difficulties and challenges, and continually stepped out of her comfort zone. She has created a unique path that is true to herself. Today, Nancy Ervin is a partner in Harrison Company, a company that provides advisory services in the areas of raising equity or debt capital, mergers and acquisitions, and helps with strategic decisions. She also owns Maverick Consulting. She has played a significant role in the Laval Entrepreneur Mentor Program here at Fresno State, not only as a mentor, but as the mentor coordinator. I think she's been involved with the program for over 15 years. She also served on the Lyles Center for Innovation Entrepreneurship Advisory Council and Board, and there isn't anybody better to end our spring sessions than to have Nancy Ervin with us. So Nancy, welcome to Pay It Forward.
Next to myself. Thank you, Mindy. That was really sweet. You said a lot of really sweet things there, and I appreciate that. And as you're saying them, it's like Mindy knows me better than I realized, so that's awesome. Wow, it's really fantastic to see everybody out here. It's been a while since I've been on the Fresno State campus. As Mindy mentioned, I do have a connection going back to the Entrepreneur Mentor Program, working with Claude and Mindy and Riley Walter and Dr. Stearns at the time, and got roped in as being a mentor, and then somehow, I think they gave me Mentor of the Year award one year and then asked me to become the mentor coordinator after that. I thought that was a very good play on their part. I said, of course, yes, I'll do that. But yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you, and I'm really excited to see a lot of the students from the EMP program back when I was involved in the audience. And so the students here know that I am very much an open book. I am going to just talk about my life journey, the path that I have taken, and the twists and turns, as Mindy talked about. But if you have any questions, absolutely feel free to ask me questions that you have. I'm here to try to help you make decisions as you move forward, much like the EMP program actually helped me. It was interesting, when I was in the EMP program, I was a partner in a CPA firm, sort of an intrapreneur instead of an entrepreneur. But being around the entrepreneur students and seeing all these students who are taking risks and starting businesses motivated me to leave a firm that I had been with for 18 years and start my own consulting business. So interacting with people, as Mindy talked about in the beginning, sort of interacting and communicating can really, you never know what's going to spark somebody, right? So that's hopefully my purpose here today to talk about. So before though I get started, I did want to kind of see a show of hands. I know we have students in here and we have some community members in here. So I want all the students to first raise your hands. So all students, raise your hands. Okay. Yay. Yay. Now keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Now students, if you know exactly what you want to do with your life, leave your hand up. If not, put your hand down. Wow. We've got 3. Okay. That's awesome. And that's important to understand, because that is sort of the theme of my talk today, is that, and again, I'm an open book. I'm 58 years old, and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And that's okay, because it's important to have goals in life, but it's also important to understand that those goals change as you go through life. I think the most important thing is not really knowing what you're going to do, but why you're going to do that. And that's the piece that we have to focus on. It's sad sometimes when I talk to some younger people in the community sometimes, and it feels like there's an expectation, because when you're in college, particularly if you're in college and your parents are paying for it or other people are paying for it, like what's the question you get all the time, especially when you're like junior, senior year, it's like, what are you gonna do? When you graduate, what are you gonna do? And that's a hard question to answer. And some people might have an answer, some people may not. But the chances are whatever answer it is that you give now probably isn't going to mirror what you're actually doing 10 years from now. But again, that's okay. So as example, I just wanted to share with you sort of my story. So as Mindy mentioned, I'll start with the end, I'm an investment banker. So what is an investment banker? It's a horrible phrase because I'm neither I'm not an investor, I don't have money that I'm investing, nor am I a bank, I don't have money to lend. What I do is I help businesses find investors who either want to buy their company, all of it or part of it, or provide an investment in it, or some debt capital type of thing. There's a lot of investment bankers, maybe what you see in the movies a little bit more on the Wall Street side. They're the ones who are taking companies public. Those are investment bankers too. Our firm, we don't do public companies at all, other than through a SPAC, but that's a whole different story. We primarily, our focus is on helping family businesses or founder or entrepreneur-led businesses who are making that decision about, a lot of times they've started the company or their parents started the company and they've worked it in their whole year, and the next generation doesn't want to take it over. What do I want to do? So we help family businesses make that decision. I personally work almost exclusively in the food and ag space. Been in the Fresno area for 25 years. My original passion is ag. So I work with a lot of ag companies who have made transitions. And I can name some of the names, but I'm not going to here because some of the names have fallen out of favor in the community. But so I do that now. But back when I was your age, when I was in college, I had no idea what an investment banker was. Matter of fact, 10 years ago, I had no idea what an investment banker was. When I was your age, when I was going to college, I came from a very poor background. We were fortunate in my family that we had a little bit of land. We had a couple acres. We grew a lot of our own food, raised our own animals, grew our own food. And I didn't realize that we were poor until I was applying for college and I was filling out the financial aid stuff. And at the same time, I was taking a class in economics in high school. And I'm asking my mom about our income. And I go like, gee, Mom, did you know that we're under the poverty level for a family of 4 and we're a family of 5? I had no idea, but did come from that. And ag was my first love. So I originally went to college. I was Future Farmers of America in high school. And then I went to college up in Modesto and started out in the ag space. Then for whatever reason, I transitioned to marketing. I had a time where I thought I wanted to be like, this was, in the 80s or something, I wanted to be that creative person who created ads and that creative style of thing. So my major became marketing, business marketing. So that's actually what my bachelor's degree is in. But then I realized that if I really wanted to work and be in like big marketing companies, the big marketing companies are in Chicago and New York and LA, and I'm still a country girl at heart, and I could never live in one of those places. So let's see, I got back into, trying to think. So I graduated from college. I did do some time working for a TV station, doing commercials, making commercials and stuff. That was a lot of fun. I worked for a newspaper, we did some reporting. I considered that for a career for a while. Then I got a job working for a farmer doing accounting. Even though accounting wasn't my degree, the math and accounting always came easily, so I did that for a while. I'm just trying to remember. Then, let's see, we moved to Nevada. My husband and I moved to Nevada, and I worked in a feedlot. So we raised cattle and replacement heifers. So I worked in the office, and as I did that, I learned about feeding cattle and about the commodities that you buy to feed cattle. Then when we moved again, I leveraged that knowledge about the industry and became a commodity trader in the feed industry. So I approached a company that does buying and selling of feed commodities, and I pitched myself to them as a commodity trader. So they hired me to do that. That was fun. Let's see. Then I went back and I got my MBA, University of San Diego, and then we moved to Fresno about that time. And that's actually when I kind of took a pause and said, you know, I've sort of been taking these jobs as they came available. And to be honest, a lot of them were, my husband was the primary breadwinner. We moved for his job a lot. So I was kind of looking for what was available in the area, kind of following him. But once I had my MBA, I said, okay, I'm not going to look for a job. What is my career? So now finally deciding, oh, maybe I need a career. And I gave myself time to find something. And in order to, again, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew why. And so I had criteria for the kind of job that I wanted to do. And it had to be something that was project-based, because like I love school. And the thing about school that I like is that, you know, you start a class and you learn something new, and then you do the project, and then you turn in your report or whatever, and then it's done, and you move on, and you never think about that class again. You know, I love project, finish and ending. I don't like sort of the repetitive side. So project-based. I did want to do something that touched the ag industry, because again, that was sort of my initial love. And I wanted to work for people of integrity. And by this time, I had had multiple jobs, and I had worked for some people that I had a lot of respect for, and I had worked for people who I didn't necessarily have a lot of respect for, and I found that the latter was much more joyful for me. So that was my 3 criteria. So then I started looking, and I started talking and networking with people in the Fresno area, and you know, I would interview. I took a lot of interviews. Sometimes I took interviews for jobs I didn't think I even wanted, but I just wanted the practice of interviewing, and I wanted to network a little bit more. And so I went through it all, and at that, you know, I was very disciplined. I approached the interview process like a job itself. I ended up with 5 job offers through that interview process. So the job that I took had nothing to do with ag, wasn't project-based, and apparently weren't people of integrity, but they offered the most money. So I threw out my criteria and I took the job with the most money. And it turned out to be, it was a trucking company that I was told by the recruiter that it was a startup, and they just needed a controller, and it wasn't a startup. It had been in business for a while. They just hadn't paid their payroll taxes for a year and a half. And the IRS was after them, and they wanted me to fill out all the forms to do that. So I started on a Monday, and I like distinctly remember it was like, you know, all guys trucking company, and the women's bathroom, the toilet was clogged, and I like my first day, and I'm like unclogging the toilet and going, I think I've made a big mistake. And by Wednesday, I told that person that, look, you know, I don't mind inheriting someone else's headache, but I'm not going to inherit, you know, your cancer that you have created. And then I called Dennis Fay. He was a partner at Baker Peterson. That was one of the other jobs. And at Baker Peterson, highly integral firm. Consulting was project-based, and most of their clients are ag. And I called Dennis Fay, and I said, I made a mistake. I want to come work for you. Is the offer still there? And thank goodness, he said, yeah, absolutely. So I quickly changed, and I went over to Baker Peterson. And again, with that particular job, it's a CPA firm. I was not a CPA. I am not a CPA. I don't do taxes. I don't do financial statements. I pitched myself to them. And again, this was like before the digital age. I brought a binder in, and that binder had articles that I had written. It had photography I had done when I was a reporter. It had reports that I did for school. It's like stuff that had nothing to do with accounting whatsoever. But I pitched myself to them as this consultant for your ag clients, and that I would be sort of an internal entrepreneur. I would be willing to take compensation that was based on how many billable hours I was able to bring in, and I would, you know, work with all the partners in the firm to try to offer my services to the client base. So they took a chance on me, and I was there for 18 years. Eventually became a partner. Again, not as a CPA, which is highly unusual in the CPA world. Matter of fact, they always had to send a letter out to their clients, all of their like audit clients and stuff, and it was like a warning, one of our partners doesn't have a CPA. She might work on your stuff, be careful. I mean, it wasn't exactly like that, but that's essentially what it was. But that's okay. Grew the consulting department there quite a bit. And then in 2015 or 16, one of the clients of the firm was Bob Smitkamp. And I adored Bob Smitkamp. And I don't know how many community members here remember Bob, but Bob had a little bit of a outside persona as being a little rough around the edges, a little hard, a little cold, I don't know. But he, inside, nicest man ever, an absolute teddy bear. Adored him. He was a mentor of mine. And then Bob called one day and said that he said, I want to sell my business. He had two businesses at the time, Wawona Packing and Lyons Magnus. So I want to sell my company. What do I need to do? And I had done some M&A work for some clients, some small M&A work for clients at the time. So I had a general idea. And so I kind of he's a big business. And I looked it up and I said, okay, you need an investment banker. For a company your size, you need an investment banker. And he's like, well, how does that work? And so I explained to him, how it worked, and he's like, what are the fees? I explained to him the fees. He's like, well, you're smart. Why don't you do it? And I said, thank you, but no. That is way too much for me to do, but I can help you through the process. So Wawona Packing did not have an inside CFO, so the firm was kind of its outsourced CFO. So I was the outsourced CFO on this project, and we interviewed a bunch of investment banks. And one of the firms that we interviewed was led by this guy named Bill Harrison and his team. and Bill's firm was not the biggest firm, and it wasn't the smallest firm that came in, but they blew us away on their presentation. Just sort of a different point of view, different way of doing things. So Bob hired Bill and his team to be the investment banker for Wawona Packing, and I was the outsourced CFO on that project. So I spent a year and a half working on this particular transaction, and fascinated, absolutely fascinated by the transaction itself. Highly analytical, a lot of spreadsheets. I love math. Also, there's a human component to it. There's the negotiation side. There's the emotional reaction side. I remember Brent Smitkamp, occasionally he would get frustrated and he'd call and say, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, Brent, 2 words, water, labor. He's like, okay, you're right. It's time to sell. It's time to sell. And then I also learned through that process too that investment bankers make a lot of money. So kind of going back to that original decision, I had my criteria for finding a job, right? But I also had developed sort of my personal mission statement about my choices in life. And so things that I want to spend my time on as far as a career, I call it the 3-legged stool. So my mission statement is, I want to make money. And I'm going to say that out loud, I want to make money. That is important to me. I'm not embarrassed to say it. I grew up poor. I want to have financial security. That's incredibly important to me. Number 2, I want to have fun. I mean, I don't have to be like a laugh every single day, but it needs to be enjoyable. I need to kind of get something out of doing the work that I'm doing. And number 3 is I want to make a difference in the lives of others. And that can be the clients I'm working with, it can be the staff that I'm working with, and with family businesses particularly, if they're selling a company, it's a family business, it's a once-in-a-lifetime transaction for them. It's a lot of money for them. It is so financially and emotionally important for them to have a good transaction done. I feel really good doing that. So this investment banking career gave me the opportunity to do that. So I went to my partners at Baker Peterson, asked if I could leave the partnership, and again, that was a few years ago now, so early 50s. Had to go and take some additional license. I was sitting there in the proctor's office with 20-somethings all taking the Series 79 and taking these same tests. And I'm thinking, it's like, I have to pass the first time. I cannot let these kids pass and me not pass. That's not going to happen. So powered through that exam and got through that exam. My journey has been varied, and I would have no idea that I would end up where I am today if you'd asked me any years ago. But what's interesting is that in the career that I'm in now, a lot of the other investment bankers that I work with are career investment bankers. They are people who started out in college. They started out in finance. They had internships along the way. They started out as analysts, working ridiculous hours and then working their way up. They have all of this. I did not. And the firm that we started, so Bill and I and some other partners, we started our own firm, Harris & Co. And in that firm, I think we have 8 partners, and I'm the only one who doesn't have a career background in investment banking. And I will say right now, I am crushing it. I am the most productive partner on that team. Thank you. And I think it's because I've done all these, I've done accounting, I've done sales, I've done consulting. Everything that I have done has led me up to where I am now. And if I had just picked this singular path, I would not have that life experience to provide to my clients today to get things done. So I'm very fortunate that I've had these opportunities, but as Mindy said, kept myself open to the opportunities as they come up. So that is my message that I wanted to get out to everybody today, and that is that the important lessons I have 4 written down. Number 1, have a goal, but be flexible. So the way that I think about it sometimes is, as long as you're moving forward towards a goal, and it's like, I wish maybe I should work with AI to figure out how to do this graphically. You have a goal out in front of you, and to me, like you're moving towards that goal. And then something kind of, you might move, this way, and then you might move that way, but you're kind of moving forward towards that goal. And that goal actually might change a little bit like this, but you're still moving towards the goal. And what I'm afraid that happens sometimes, and I've seen this with some relatives of mine, that they think that they have to have this direct path, and that if they don't, if they aren't following that direct path, then they're not doing something, and they get stagnated. And my thought is, no, just keep putting one step in front of the other. Keep moving forward. Keep moving towards something. But understand and know your why. So again, you don't have to know the what, just know the why, and understand what's important to you. And it's tough. Again, back from the entrepreneur, talking to the student stage, there are so many students and what do you want out of life? Well, I want to start a business, and I want to have a family, and I want to have a bunch of kids, and I want to have a really nice house, and I want to travel, and I want to do all these different things, and that's wonderful to have all of those goals, but you need to start prioritizing them, because, I don't mean to be a downer in this, but sometimes it's hard to have it all. And if you set yourself up to, I have a whole different presentation about unrealistic expectations, but if you have unrealistic expectations, I think that's like the biggest cause for depression and anxiety in society today is unrealistic expectations. Not that any of us have really bad lives or anything. I mean, compared to the rest of the world, we all got it pretty darn good. But unrealistic expectations can make us very anxious and make us very depressed. So have realistic expectations. And one of those expectations in this other presentation that I like to do sometimes is called work-life balance. Actually, the presentation is called the work-life balance myth, because there are, to have the things that you want, there are things you have to give up. And understanding your why, what's important to you, what are you willing to give up, and making that conscious choice between the two, as opposed to allowing other people to make that choice for you, or worse, making no choice at all, or at least think you're not making a choice, understand that doing nothing is a decision. But understanding what's important to you and figuring out that balance for you, not between work and life, because those are not two separate things. Work is part of our life, but sort of the things that are important to you and the things that you're willing to let go to have the things that are important to you, work-life balance. So have a goal, but be flexible, know your why. And then the third one was guard against indecision. And again, a lot of people say, I don't know what I want to do, therefore I do nothing. The other sort of visual that I have with that, and if anybody knows how to use AI, I can help you put these visuals together in a slide, I'd love to. But the visual for that one a lot of times is, you're trying to move forward, and let's say there's a bunch of people and everybody's moving forward and we're on dirt, and some people have a nice, flat, wide, clear path that they're moving forward on. And we see that. And other people, sometimes our paths get a little muddy and get a little bogged down. And it's hard when you're going through that mud to keep putting one foot in front of the other, especially when we see other people with a clearer path moving forward. And there's a tendency sometimes to want to retreat back to sort of safer ground. And what I'd like to encourage all of you today is don't retreat, don't give up, Keep putting one foot instead of the other. You will get out of that muddy spot, and you will move forward, and you'll look back at it and glad that you did. Because you don't have to get it right the first time. So I'm living proof of that. You don't have to get it right the first time. So you can allow yourself to change your mind as opportunities come up, as long as you understand your why and you're making your choices based on those why, and not simply, chasing opportunities just to try to get out of doing something. So understand your why, keep moving forward. That's my message for everybody today. So that's it. What am I doing? Fine. So, any questions at all? I don't know how much time we have for questions. Okay. Any questions? The impact that EMP had on students? Of course. Yeah. Okay. So EMP stands for the Entrepreneur Mentor Program. So we, at a time through the Lyle Center, we had a program where, and it wasn't just entrepreneur students, it was any student who they would apply for the EMP program. And they would get matched with a mentor in the community, one or two mentors. So as Mindy was talking about, I was the mentor coordinator. So part of my job was to go out and promote business people who wanted to become mentors and then help match them with a student. And those students were in EMP for 2 years. 2 years or 2 semesters? 2 semesters. Two semesters. Okay. Felt like 2 years.
Well, it's usually for life.
That's true. There are lots of EMP students here, as Mindy said. They are EMP students for life. And a lot of the students I know that I've worked with, I've become good friends with. And it became a dual mentor. The older, wiser, we're supposed to be the mentor. But I know there was a lot of students that I had the pleasure to work with who, they were pretty darn wise themselves. And I learned a lot from them. But that was the EMP program, right? Yeah. Other questions?
You did like a graphic with your hands moving towards the goal.
Yes.
And it looked like you never reached the goal, so do you ever reach the goal?
That's an excellent question. Thank you for pointing that out. So a part of my upbringing was my grandfather was a Methodist minister. And my grandmother always said from her teachings there is that we're supposed to strive for perfection. That is what we're supposed to do, is strive for perfection. Knowing that we are imperfect human beings and we will never achieve perfection. But it's the striving for that'll get us to that better place. So I do think it's important to have goals that are out there that you may or may not hit that goal. But it's the moving towards that goal that you will discover yourself along the way. So yeah, it was sort of intentional that it didn't necessarily hit the goal. Because actually, to me, if you actually hit that goal, then it's like, well, then what are you going to do? You're just going to move the goal. So you never hit it, really. And that's a weird sort of balance to be comfortable with. Knowing that you're always striving for something that you're never going to hit, how do you reconcile those two things together? But I think you reconcile them by, embracing the journey along the way and knowing that you discover some really cool stuff as you're trying to go towards that goal along the way. So.
Any other questions?
I have a question. So Nancy, what would you tell your 20-year-old self today? Why? Back in the day, because I know, we have a reflection period as we're going along this journey, right? It's like, wow, if I only would have done this, or, is there something that you would have done different? And if not, how would you, I don't know, how would you describe it? There would have been something that would have done different, but.
Yeah, that's talking to my 20-year-old self. Okay, I told you guys I'm an open book. So I'm going to answer that brutally, honestly. Probably wouldn't have gotten married as young. Yeah. And I married a man that was a lot older than I am. Wasn't a big deal back then, but in this particular point of my career where I am very career oriented and he is retired and wondering when I'm going to stay home, and I have no plans of staying home anytime soon. If I had that foresight at that age, I would have rethought that decision. And that is my brutally honest answer. Yeah. Oh, right front and then the back.
You, as a business advisor and someone who wanted to create some sense of generational wealth, for a student whose family's in a similar situation, trying to coordinate younger brothers to start businesses and get out of the poverty pool, what will be key points of advice, either as a personal level or as a business advisor, to start building that nest egg for a family?
Yeah, that's.
Did everybody hear the question?
Okay.
Can you just repeat?
Okay, so the question was basically, what would you advise a younger person today who's trying to get to create generational wealth or get out of that poverty hole, either start a business or whatever? That's the general idea. And I do believe that entrepreneurship, to me, when I look at the most successful people, when you look around, there's some professionals who are very successful, but most of the very successful, and by successful, I'm talking, like financially successful people, are people who started their own companies. I haven't done the stats on it, but I believe that to be true. And I think it's really important. I think the hard part that we struggled a lot in the MP program was the idea that you're going to get out of college and you're going to start a business and you're going to sell it for millions of dollars a few years later. That doesn't really happen that often. We read about it, so we think it does, but it doesn't really happen that often. What we always suggested, if you have an interest in a particular area, is go work in that area. I mean, go work for somebody else who's doing a similar kind of thing. It's like, getting a graduate degree, but somebody's paying you to do it, and learn from that. And not only are you learning the ins and outs of a particular industry, but you're saving some money in the process of doing that. And then when you do go out on your own, there are two different ways. One is, you grow organically, you start very slow and you grow very slow, but you retain ownership yourself. The other way is to bring in investors, which can, speed up growth, but there's risks associated with that. So if you're ready to make those kind of decisions, talk to somebody about sort of the pros and cons of both of those. And if you do bring in somebody, bring in a partner that you know and trust, and never bring in a 50-50 partner. There's no such thing as a 50-50 partnership. There's always somebody that has more control than the other. So that's my little tidbit on that. There's somebody in the way back.
Hi, Nancy. My question was, why did you choose San Diego for your MBA?
Again, proximity was part of it. I was living in Temecula at the time, and I had looked at sort of the Riverside, LA area, and I looked at sort of a commuting area where I could go to. And I picked University of San Diego because it had the MBA program. It had a good reputation on the MBA. It accepted a lot of my credits. I could afford it. And then I went there for a conference of some sort. And I had like that epiphany. I had this moment where I was there and fell in love with the campus and the vibe. And I said, this is where, that was the time I decided not only to choose it, but actually to make that decision to go back to school. I was working full time and going to school at night. And it was because I had sort of an aha moment on the campus. So I had to go there. Yeah.
Any other questions? I actually have one, Nancy.
Oh.
You've done a lot of work, this is kind of off subject.
Okay.
You've done a lot of work on water. And
Yeah.
I thought maybe it would be interesting just to kind of give a quick overview of why
Okay.
did you do that?
Yes.
And the importance of it
Okay.
to where we are and what we do.
Yes. Oh, that is my other favorite topic is water. So since obviously I advise in the ag space and in ag, as I said a moment ago, labor and water are the two biggest issues in ag in California in particular. And so our firm, since we're advising all these companies and we're talking to investors, it was getting frustrating. I remember we sent out a packet one time. We had this business for sale, and we sent out to investors, and there's a lot of investors in New York. And one of the investors in New York, single reply to the email said, "There's no water in the future." I'm like, so what, we're all going to die? I don't understand. Where does this mentality come from? And then I've heard people talk about, it takes a gallon of water to grow an almond. And then I've heard people go, oh, I used to love to eat almonds till I've heard it took a gallon of water. I don't eat them anymore. And it's like, it takes water to grow everything, people. Not to throw my walnut friends under the bus, but it takes 4 gallons for a single walnut, okay? Almonds are actually incredibly dense and most efficient user of water, but that's a whole different story. So as a firm, living in California and working in the ag space and looking at the media, and there's so many misperceptions in the media all the time about ag and about water. And there was one a few years ago, so it was the 21-22, so we were in 2022, and the headlines all said, worst drought in 1,200 years. Worst drought in 1,200 years. Like, really? I wonder if that's true. So went to NOAA website, and you can look at 125 years of precipitation on an annual basis in California, and then look at this graph and like, nope, there are 20 years less rain than the 21-22 period. And matter of fact, the 21-22 water year was actually not that bad, because December of 2021 was one of the wettest Decembers on record. The media was talking about January forward was pretty dry that year, and so they were quoting that. But we don't measure water on a January calendar basis. Our water year starts in October. So it was deceiving of them the way they wrote that. So we said, forget this, and we wrote something called we called the water storage report. California does not have a water problem, it has a storage problem. So my one quick stat that I want to give that I just updated the other day. So here's a stat. Gavin Newsom just recently went online and said, you know, we've had a decent year, but make sure, don't take extra long waters, we still need to conserve. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with conservation, but we decided to do the math on that too. So we said, what if every Californian did not take a shower for an entire year? How much water could we save? So we did the math, and I think it's like 17 gallons per person. There's 40 million people for an entire year. 250 billion gallons of water is how much we would save if all Californians didn't take a shower for an entire year. Then you can go to the Department of Water Resources website, and you can look at delta inflow and outflow. So, you know, most of the water in California falls north of the delta. Most of it's used south of the delta. So it all comes into the delta, and a little bit gets pumped down south. And in order for the seawater not to come in to the delta, you need a minimum of 4,000 cubic feet per second to go out of the delta. And there's also a rule in California called the first flush. So the first big rains for 2 weeks, all of that water has to go out of the delta in order to sort of like flush out the delta, I guess. And then it's just a matter of how much is coming into the delta and how much can we pump to reservoirs down south. And you can look at the data. So we measured this past year alone, since January 1 through maybe a week ago, how much water went out of the delta above and beyond the amount necessary to keep water from coming in and above and beyond the 2 weeks flush. Anybody want to take a guess? No. 3 trillion gallons of water. Californians would have to stop taking showers for 12 years to conserve the amount of water that we let out of the delta beyond what is really beyond what the experts have said is necessary to preserve the delta. So we do not have a water problem in California. We have a storage problem. Period. End of story.
Okay. Nancy. Are there any more questions? Because Nancy, the beauty of what Nancy's done throughout her career and what you heard earlier is that she has done many different things. And each one of those has allowed her to build this strong foundation that now she can do what she offers to her clients. And I guess they're very diverse. So
Yeah.
Do you ever find these similarities between the organizations or the companies that you're working with today?
That every family business every family in a family business has issues of some sort. I think that's the most common denominator.
And how do you work through those?
Very carefully.
Does it lengthen the process usually?
It does, yeah. So part of it is, and I really like it. I really love working with family businesses because this is a once in a lifetime thing for them to go through, and I like educating and helping them through the process. But it is sort of managing expectations on their part. That's also hard. There's a lot of family businesses who thinks their business might be worth a little bit more than maybe what the market is willing to pay for that. And then also managing the buyers, which tend to be very persnickety, and the buyers are difficult. But yeah, managing people is fun, but then when I get tired of doing that, I just want to work on a spreadsheet. I just, don't answer my phone and just bury myself in Excel because I love it.
Work on water.
And work on water instead, yeah.
I have been waiting almost 9 years to have you up on this stage, and we are so thankful that you came. So thank you so much on behalf of the Lyle Center and Fresno State and everybody in attendance today. Thank you for sharing your story with us. We're so happy to have had you up here. And I know that there were more questions out there because I could hear the scuttlebutt as I was walking around. Nancy will stay a little bit longer, and she can answer any questions, and she'll be right up here. So please, students, or community members, if you like, please come up. But let's give Nancy a round of applause.
Thank you.
There's a couple of announcements before we wrap up today. Exciting news. This is fresh off the press, but the Claude C. Laval Award for the commercialization of an innovative idea is the call for those papers and those proposals and applications are available now. On your table, there should have been some flyers. It's open to all students that have gotten to a point where they're ready to commercialize or have been commercializing their product. So it's not just the idea, it's somebody who's really ready and have vetted out their concept and are really going to start up with a good idea. So anyway, this is available. If you have any questions, you can talk to anybody from the Johansson Faculty Fellows. You can come and see me and Claude. Joy is still here, I think. There's Joy right there. She would be happy to answer your questions. This is fresh off the press. It's a lot of money. It's for $10,000. So please just throw your hat into the ring and think about this and decide whether this is something you want to do this year. And this will be an annual award as well. We have, we have 3 more dates for the fall. This is the end of our spring sessions for Pay It Forward. We have 3 more dates that have been set for the fall. You should have picked that up when you came in to the, when you registered, the students registered. We have one in September, October, and November. They're really exciting. They're very diverse. And I think you guys are going to really enjoy the 3 sets of speakers that we have. So on behalf of everybody associated with Pay It Forward, thank you to the Lyle Center team, everybody that's there that have made this flawless always. Thank you for our community members who I adore, who come out here, they find the parking space, and they come out every session because they want to get to know the students. And I think that's really a great opportunity for the students to connect with our community. And for the students, if you had to do a paper, if you've got to take a picture of somebody that's associated with us today for that paper, if you need to do anything else for that teacher, please do it. But more importantly, please come back the next time, because hopefully you found something of interest today that will make you want to come back when your schedule permits. So again, thank you for being part of Pay It Forward. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Lyle Center. And we'll see you hopefully in the fall. Bye-bye.